Senator from Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the distinguished senator from Delaware for those very important and insightful comments, both on the Navy SEALs and on the small business legislation that's pending before this body. I want to begin, first of all, by saying I have 7 unanimous consent requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders, and I ask unanimous consent that these requests be agreed to and that these requests be printed in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. As my colleague and the distinguished senator from Delaware has mentioned, over the last 36 or so hours, our nation and allies around the globe have rightly celebrated an extraordinary military triumph, a great victory in the war on terror, a turning point, perhaps toward peace. Osama Bin Laden, the heinous mastermind of the 9/11 attacks that murdered thousands of Americans, has been finally brought to justice. And we are rightly celebrating the extraordinary service, bravery, skill of the Navy SEALs, who were the tip of the spear, an American military that has brought to justice one of the criminals, one of the war criminals of our time. And we celebrate not only, of course, the Navy SEALs, but all of the men and women who have given their lives and their service over the past years, and their families. And we celebrate also the intellectual and intelligence community, the intellectual gifts that they have brought to bear, the intelligence that they have mobilized in support of this effort that were so crucial. Even as these celebrations have been conducted, on one small beach in Connecticut, this news has been greeted with solace and somber remembrance. It is the beach at Sherwood Island, where Connecticut is home to the living memorial for the Connecticut victims of 9/11, a memorial to the 152 victims of this tragedy, this murderous act by the man brought to justice. It is a beautiful place, exquisitely and heartbreakingly beautiful. The skyline of New York is visible from this point jutting out from Westport. The skyline of New York that could be seen in flames on the day of 9/11, the place that provided a staging area for many of the relief efforts that happened on that day and succeeding days. And now it is a place that the community of Westport, the state of Connecticut, and the world can remember that tragedy and the 152 people who lost their lives. It is also the place that every year Connecticut gathers to honor their memory, and the families, many of them, of those 152 victims come, as some of them did yesterday, with very mixed feelings, probably today. I know they are mixed feelings because I talked just a short while ago this morning with Lee Hansen, who is the father of Peter and his wife, Sue Kim, and their daughter, Christine, who lost their lives on that day. Lee and Eunice come to that place on the day that we recognize the Connecticut victims of 9/11 and many other days. And they felt deeply the ambivalence, the mixed feelings, the grief renewed again. On the memorial, a granite marker in Westport, there reads the following: "The citizens of Connecticut dedicate this living memorial to the thousands of innocent lives lost on September 11, 2001, and to the families who loved them." And today, while there are many voices who celebrate this victory, and rightly so, There are voices harder to hear, perhaps unheard. The victims and their families, whose memory I wish to honor today and ask to place in the record the names of those 152 men and women of Connecticut who died on September 11th, 2001, as recorded on the memorial that honors their legacy in Sherwood Island. I ask that their names be placed in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. The lives of those families have been changed forever. Their children are young adults. Some of them have their own children now. Their lives have moved on. Some have remarried, and some have come to peace. But their lives, like the lives of the emergency responders who ran into the building, the firefighters and police, and their families, have been changed forever. The lives of our veterans who have fought and served and sacrificed in the war on terror have been changed forever, and we owe it to them never to forget, even as we celebrate this victory. We owe it to our veterans who have served and sacrificed to honor that service, not just in rhetoric, but in deed, and to make sure that we leave no veteran behind in education and jobs and health care, to provide for them what we have obligated and promised to provide. And while we hope for peace from this day forward, we must do everything we can to support the brave men and women who continue to serve in the war on terror that now continues, and those of our allies whose relentless service and sacrifice have helped us to win this victory. And my hope is that the memory of the victims of 9/11 will bring us together in a time of unity and purpose, just as that heinous act did on that day almost 10 years ago. The heinous, brutal murder of September 11, 2001 hit the World Trade Center and they hit the Pentagon, but they missed America, as was remarked at the time. They missed what makes America great, and they brought us together in a time that we can remember with pride, because it was a time of resolve and unity. And I hope that the memory of those victims, the 152 from Connecticut and thousands more from around the country, as well as their families, can bring us together now in a renewed sense of unity and purpose to face the challenges that lie ahead. Thank you, Mr. President.